Yeah, I missed it too, guys. Yeah, I missed it. I missed it. Shake your dress. Oh, that's offensive. Like a typical guy going to the gym on a bro split, we have skipped leg day, but this video is going to fix that. We're going to divide the legs into 3 views like we did for the arms, and that's about it. Let's get into the video. First, we draw the simplified shapes. The torso rectangle. Torso tutorial, by the way, for those who don't know, is the latest tutorial on anatomy I have created at the time of this recording. Since we are very early on in the leg drawing process, we want to do proportioning, or use it in this case. For the length of the leg, you want to take the length of the torso and you transfer it to the legs, but then you add an extra fifth or a quarter. Now this extra fifth or quarter is influenced by the artist's preference or genetic factors for the character or the person. Now to wrap up the proportioning part, we want to make a line in the middle of your proportion line. Now we move on to the top half of the leg. After faintly dividing them into thirds, you want to take the inner bottom top corner of the top half of the leg and you want to connect it to the bottom fifth or quarter of your torso. This again is preference based. Now what we're trying to draw here is a muscle that divides your quad and your abductor muscle groups. But since this muscle doesn't really appear unless you're a professional bodybuilder, you want to ignore it. Simplify is just a line that is faint or detailed. Now on the horizontal divider, you want to draw a kneecap or a knee, and it's just like an oval shape, 2 oval shapes. Before we draw the quadriceps or the quads, you want to draw another separator line that is adjacent to the one you just drew for the abductor group and the quads. But I recommend you draw this one as 2 lines instead of 1 like we did earlier. Now on top of our knee, we want to draw an angular U or a V. Looks weird now, but trust the process. Now you'll draw a bracket next to your knee. You will draw another bracket right under the knee, but on the inner side of the leg. The bottom inner bracket should be about a quarter of the bottom half of the leg. Now this view is lengthy, but we are almost wrapping up. Side note, that was kind of the reason why I procrastinated on this video for about 2 months now. Now we want to create these little bumps, like kind of brackets. And for those who are drawing superheroes and people who are flexing the legs, this is the muscle insertion pattern. Now we move to the bottom half of the leg, which is the calf. From this view is very simple, very straightforward. You want to draw the calf picking from the back, and you want to combine all the muscles for the toes as one big muscle group. Very similar to what we did for the forearms and the finger muscles, but don't forget there's a bone in between these muscles. There's the anatomy of the toe muscles, by the way, for those who are interested. And we're done. We'll move on to the view number 2. Now the thing that might jump out at you first is the fact that the torso is partially curved, and that's partly because of the spine and maybe organ placement, but I'm not too sure about that one. It probably is, maybe, something like that. I don't know. Moving on to the top half of the leg, we have this long tendon that strikes us first, and this one is directly on top of the quad muscles, and the quad muscles will look something like this from the side view, of course. There's the striation pattern, and don't forget the little view we drew from the previous angle. Now back to the tendon muscle thing. This tendon muscle thing connects to your gluteus maximus, your butt, your buttocks, your your bunda. How many names do we have for this thing? But I digress. Glutes from these angles are very simple. You just look like a bump in the top part of the leg. This is the direction they wrap around the legs again. And below that we have the bicep of the leg, the hamstrings. And if you remember what I taught in the arm video, or you have a decent idea of how the anatomy of the arm works, when there's a bicep, there's a brachioradialis. With that, we are pretty much done with the top half of the leg. We move on to the bottom half and we start with the calf, the short head to be specific, and it's a bit of an oval angular polygon shape. Right in front of it we have the soleus muscle. For simplicity's sake, long muscles often have this bracket long shape. This will apply here. Then we have the toe muscle groups. Again, you don't need to draw all of these muscles when you're drawing a person. You just have to have an idea that they are there so that you consider them when drawing someone. Whether these muscles appear depends on the body fat percentage or the leanness of this person or not, and their muscularity. But anyways, lastly, this view, similar to the front view, takes up about a fifth or a quarter of the torso. Let's start with these guys. The shape is more of like a trapezium-ish, inverted hexagon, or even butterfly shape. And this is the direction of the striations of the muscles. A little fun fact is that the fat storage of the glutes are the ones that make it have this dough-like shape or this roundish shape. Kinda. But most of the time you find that the shape is influenced by the fat. Now we move on to the hamstrings. They split into 3 parts. The bicep femoris looks a bit like a rhombus. This guy and that guy. Yeah, these muscles wrap around the femur bone in different directions and they leave a V in between them. Now we move to the calves, and again these guys have 2 heads, the long head and the short head, for simplicity's sake. Depending on the genetics, these will take up half of the leg or the upper third. For a simple understanding of the calf shape, it's kind of like a freehand heptagon or a hexagon, depending on which head you are drawing. The longer head has more sides, so the long head is the heptagon most of the time. The muscle fibers go this way again, and below that you have your soleus muscle again, and below your calves you have the long tendon that stretches to your Achilles tendon or the Achilles tendon. And with that we can finally wrap up the video. Practice these and I can go eat because I record these on an empty stomach to avoid making many mistakes. Again, make sure you check out my anatomy playlist and leave a like. That goes a long way, by the way, for these videos. They take a lot of time, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.